Green.
If
You're
it's
unmuted.
It's red.
Yeah. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Who's doing the roll call?
I am Chair Barbara Boswell. Nice to see you. Board Member Brower,
Present.
Hertzberg.
Here.
Medrano. Peacock,
Present.
Vasquez,
Present.
Vice Chair Ruggles,
Here.
Chair Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent calendar, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Oh, we have a,
Yes, sir. And well, let's do the consent calendar and then we can come back to the presentation if that's okay.
sure.
Yeah, you
Okay, is there a motion?
go. So moved.
Second.
Let's vote. I guess we'd have to do a roll call.
Barbara Allison, roll call.
I could do a roll call. Board Member Brower,
Aye.
Hertzberg.
Aye.
Medrano,
Aye.
Peacock,
Aye.
Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ruggles,
Aye.
Chair Paris.
It's unanimous. Next.
Yes, great. Board members, Mayor, if you notice, we're in different locale, right? We're in the home of Montebello, our sister city and our partner in our agency, our JPA. They've done a phenomenal job with the expansion of their bus system and working together with us to look at the aggregation of supply of eventual green hydrogen. But since we're hosting us today, we think it's a great opportunity for us to become familiar with our members and hopefully be doing this on a number of different levels with Shafter, Fresno, and some of the others. And so with that, I'll turn it over to John to tell us the story about Montebello.
Thank you so much, Jason. Good afternoon, honorable members of the board. John Soria, Director of Transportation for the City of Montebello. My direct responsibilities are Montebello Bus Lines. We do have the third largest municipal transit system in Los Angeles County. So we are excited to be a member of the first public hydrogen utility, and we are excited to partner going forward and being a part of bringing hydrogen to reality. Back in 2020, I joined the City of Montebello, and at that time, right around 2018, CARB had introduced the ICT regulations. And so those regulations were rolling out to get all the transit agencies within California to zero emissions by 2040. So I had the opportunity to be at the genesis of this project as a manager at that time. And then in 2024, 2025, I was appointed Director of Transportation. So I was able to return home to Montebello Bus Lines, and now we're in the implementation and the deployment phase of the project. But this really isn't a me project, it really is a we project. So I wanna be able to recognize some of our team members who are really helping to lift this project and bring it into fruition. So some of our team members are joining me this afternoon. I have my Deputy Director, Liz Franco, my Admin Manager, Mark Jimenez, and two of our Senior Management Analysts, Leslie Peralta and Robert Fierro. Leslie and Robert have been very instrumental in going before the Metro Board and helping to identify dollars for us to ensure that we have the financial resources to be able to purchase these fuel cell hydrogen buses. Again, back in October of 2021, the city approved Montebello Bus Lines zero emission bus rollout plan to guide MBL's transition from conventional transit buses to fuel cell electric buses. During that time, we did the comparison. We looked at what the battery electric buses would do for us in this region and on our routes. And then we compared that to the fuel cell electric buses. And so since that time, we've really been fully committed to the fuel cell electric buses, just based on what they bring to us, right, as it relates to range, as it relates to refueling times, and then just the overall pros of what hydrogen fuel cell buses present for the industry. And then in October of 2024, the city entered into an agreement with the Center for Transportation and the Environment, CTE, to help us guide our activities specific to our zero emission bus facilities and fleet transition plan. And then this past December 2025, we received our first delivery of 3 fuel cell electric buses. So we're excited to have those on site. They're in our yard. They're currently going through final inspection with New Flyer. So we do have New Flyer folks currently on site with our mechanics and working through the final inspection and making sure those vehicles, those buses are road ready and road worthy. So we anticipate seeing fuel cell electric, our FCEBs in service come sometime in March. So this really does mark the beginning of a multi-year transition to a 100% zero emission fleet. What it also does, it allows Montebello Bus Lines, or it places Montebello Bus Lines at the forefront as one of the first small to mid-size transit agencies in the United States to adopt hydrogen technology at scale. But as you're aware, it doesn't come with complete smoothness. So we do have some challenges that we're currently navigating. For us in particular, and what we're also seeing across other transit agencies, is that as these mandates, one of the things that we're seeing is CARB has their mission and their goals, but their mission and their goals don't necessarily align with transit agencies' goals and missions and availability of real estate. Because as we begin to make these transitions, the majority of the transit agencies are landlocked. Again, that was one of the other factors that we looked at as we were looking at battery electric versus fuel cell electric. So currently for us, our premises were unable to safely accommodate the permanent fueling infrastructure that was required to make that transition. Next slide, please. Fortunately for us, there was a property that came up available for us, literally a 2 to 3 mile walk just behind our facility. So we just recently acquired land at 860 Truckway. It's about 22,000 square feet. It's industrially zoned. It's compatible with the surrounding industrial areas, provides us with adequate space for the setbacks and circulation. It's literally 2 to 3 minute walk from our current operation. And what it also does for us, it also allows for long-term operational control and future expansion. Currently, we have the ACE project that's coming through our community. That's a railroad project, but it is a project that has a partnership with the San Gabriel Valley COG. So San Gabriel Valley COG did come in ahead of that project, and they were able to gobble up some land for that project. Just recently, some of those land acquisitions are being presented to us for first right of refusal. So we are looking at potentially acquiring some of that land as well. Because one of the goals that we have here in Montebello, specific to Montebello Bus Lines, is we also want to be able to have a retail arm within the hydrogen space as well. So we've been conducting some studies with CTE as our consultant, helping us guide and navigate those conversations. So for us, again, we want to be able to identify space and real estate that would allow us to scale up to those opportunities in the future. But again, we just acquired this land here in January to help us, again, move towards a fully hydrogen transit system. Next slide, please. So as we navigate this space, we do have some strategic partnerships and some strategic funding opportunities that we are pursuing. You know, one of the things that we have been very intentional on is ensuring that as we move into this space for hydrogen and fuel cell buses, that we are partnering with the folks that really understand this industry and understand not just from the buses and the technology, but also from the design and the engineering when it comes to our facility. First and foremost, again, our project funding does include support from the Federal Transit Administration, specifically the Urbanized Area Formula Program. We were just successful in front of Metro, grabbing some of these dollars recently. Robert did an amazing job presenting, so we were able to, our presentation came in number one, so we were able to grab the largest amount of money to help support the purchase of our future procurements for our fuel cell electric buses. In March, Leslie Peralta is in the batter's deck, and she'll be going back in front of Metro, and she'll be looking to grab some additional dollars. Leslie was just successful in grabbing some dollars for us in front of the same board for one of our bus stop improvement projects. So we really have an awesome team that's committed. They've bought into the vision. They understand what it presents, not just for the community, but for the future as well. And then again, we have CTE that's helping us guide this landscape and ensuring that we're making thoughtful and phased deployment decisions. What we're learning, we have a lot of learning lessons and lessons learned as we work with CTE, as they work with other agencies that are navigating the hydrogen space. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate that the Arches program did hit the snags that it hit with the federal government. We weren't a part of that project, so there weren't any major impacts to our agency as it relates to funding challenges. We know some of our neighboring agencies, in particular Foothill, they've had to scale back on what their procurement processes were to be able to not hit any kind of financial cliffs. So we've had a very phased-in approach. We're doing that with our bus purchases, but we're also doing that with our permanent infrastructure as well. We'll be phasing up to our full deployment. We have a fleet of 66 buses. Our infrastructure will not be built out to accommodate that because we won't be a full hydrogen fleet anytime soon. So we will scale up to, hopefully a full 66 bus fleet in the future. And then we're working with Stantec Engineering. Stantec will be working on the design, engineering, and the construction support for our zero-emission bus facility upgrade. So they'll be coming on site and helping to provide those support services as well. And then the only name in the game, right, when it comes to fuel cell bus is New Flyer. So we currently run, we are currently a New Flyer fleet. We run compressed natural gas buses. That is the majority of what our fleet looks like today. But we are currently working with New Flyer to transition into their fuel cell electric buses. We do have their most advanced technology currently, so we will continue to work with New Flyer. We are going back out for a few more fuel cell electric buses here later this quarter, and then again later in the year as we begin to gradually move into the fuel cell electric bus space. Next slide, please. So our timeline and our next steps, again, here in early 2026, we are currently working on our deployment and performance validation schedule. We are working on, again, ongoing investments in infrastructure, our workforce training, and again, we do have a very robust community outreach program. One of the things that we want to be able to ensure is that the community understands that hydrogen is a safe technology. And so we don't want to have any missteps. We want to make sure that the community is fully educated, they're fully informed, especially because where our current footprint is for Montebello bus lines, we are enveloped, a portion of our facility is residential. So we want to make sure that we have that community outreach component so that there's that understanding of of how safe of an alternative fuel hydrogen is. And again, working with our local regulatory agency, Metro, our team will be going back, asking for a few more dollars in our continued pursuit of state and federal funding. We also will be knocking on doors of Senator Schiff and Senator Padilla to get their buy-in as well for this particular project. We've been very intentional in what we're doing as a smaller to mid-sized agency. So we do have a presence in Washington, D.C. We will be going back in July, and we'll again be advocating for these projects. One of the things that we did see with the Low-No grants that recently were awarded, They were all awarded compressed natural gas. There was no hydrogen technology that was awarded. So we are looking to stay committed to this fuel, to this technology, again, but finding ways to wordsmith what we're doing so that we're able to continue to secure dollars at the federal level to ensure that this project is successful. And again, we are at the forefront of the technology and the industry as it relates to hydrogen. Open for any questions or comments at this time. There you go.
That's impressive. I mean, you
Thank you.
guys are pulling it together. Wow. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Congratulations. I want to ask a couple questions about your infrastructure because is that also a phased approach to the infrastructure? Or are you going to overbuild the refueling capability and storage? That's my key question for, let's say, all 66 buses or for half or what, how is that phased?
We're actually working on phasing that in. So that's one of the biggest conversations that we're having currently, being that we're only going to have, so when you're looking at New Flyer currently, the next delivery of buses for us, we won't see another fuel cell electric bus until about 2028. So if we were to build out to the full fleet size, we would be at a loss. So we are going to phase in the infrastructure to gradually build up to the full fleet of 60 or so. We're actually looking to adjust our fleet size currently.
Okay.
So when you look at what's considered a large agency versus a small agency in transportation, 65 and above is considered a large agency. So we have 66 buses on site, which actually hurts us. So at the moment, the team is working on adjusting our fleet size to get us down to 60 so that we are fitting in with the actual comparable agencies to Montebello Bus Lines, which would be small to mid-size. So that will allow us to have better footing when it comes to the compliance, but also to being able to scale up in the future, which is also one of the other reasons why we're looking at additional real estate, so that this way, as we do begin to scale up, we can actually accommodate for that phased up approach.
Yeah. In particular, I think I'd like to have you assess the boil off that might occur if you have too much liquid hydrogen stored on site. Okay, this is one of the key challenges.
Right.
And it results in a most devastating impact on your bottom line.
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, and if you want to talk to me about how to do that, maybe I have some awesome graduate students and everything that might be able to help.
No, absolutely. And that's actually one of the things that we're currently looking at, because we may have more boil off than we do usage based on the phase-in approach. So
Yeah.
we're definitely looking at boil off at the moment.
Great, thank you.
So have you solved that?
We have many solutions. This is a solvable problem, but it's also a problem that goes away if you have the full-scale system designed for the full-scale
Right.
use. And you just, you know, use it every day, then it's a fine, then you don't even need solutions, if you will. But there are also solutions that can be implemented along the way. They include like local cooling of the hydrogen, so you recool it, which is not a huge energy impact, right? You just cool it a little bit more, okay? And you do that all the time, and then it doesn't boil off. Another one is you take the boil off gas and you put it into a local fuel cell generator. And so if you have an electricity demand, you can actually use the boil off for displacing your electricity. And it can be fairly cheap because you already use the hydrogen mainly for transportation. And now all you're doing is taking something that would otherwise be vented and you're making electricity from it. And we have other means of handling it too. And we're publishing some papers on this topic too, so.
I just wanted to ask along the lines of infrastructure and scaling up. Are you looking at the availability of infrastructure credits with the California Low Carbon Fuel Standard that allows, it sounds like you're looking at a public access station, fueling station. So I'm guessing you probably are
Right.
looking at that, but that helps with some of the costs that you get to generate low carbon fuel standard credits based on the unused capacity of your station.
Right. Yeah, we're looking at that as well. We did do a preliminary analysis with our consultant. Just looked at, for instance, so we are in a perfect area for retail because it really is a retail desert for us here in the San Gabriel Valley as it relates to hydrogen. The challenge when it comes to retail, from what we're learning, is there's only 3 manufacturers when it comes to hydrogen vehicles or passenger vehicles: Toyota, Honda, Hyundai. Honda just exited the industry. Toyota is making some major investments. We looked at fourth quarter sales in the state of California. Not one hydrogen vehicle was sold in the fourth quarter of 2025. So looking at all these different things and making sure that we're making thoughtful and prudent decisions. So, you know, again, it may not be something that we do on the front end of the project, but as we scale up, we definitely want to be in a space where we do provide that retail opportunity as well.
That makes sense.
I'm curious, why did you choose hydrogen instead of batteries?
Hydrogen gives us about 300 miles range on our buses. Your refuel time is about 10 to 15 minutes at a high end when it comes to refueling a hydrogen bus. There is technology on the infrastructure that can lower that right around maybe 7 to 8 minutes. On the flip side, when you look at battery electric buses, the recharging time is about 3 to 4 hours. So 3 to 4 hours, you don't always get the full charge on those buses. And in order for us to be able to fully meet service demands, we would have to have like a 2-to-1 ratio. So where we put a hydrogen bus on one route, that hydrogen bus has the ability to stay en route the full day of service. With the battery electric bus will require some assistance from another battery electric bus in order to meet service demands.
That's a very good reason.
I also wonder about infrastructure, because 66 buses doesn't sound like a huge fleet, but if you tried to charge all 66 at one spot, I guarantee you won't get SCE to provide the electricity.
Right.
Guaranteed. You're gonna have to put them in different spots, and maybe you can get it to work.
Yeah, and that was also one of our other concerns, right? Was what's the infrastructure going to be able to accommodate? And you know, as we know, there over the years, a lot of cities haven't invested in infrastructure. So to be able to bring that type of a demand to the city of Montebello, I mean, we're having challenges now with Edison just to get them to come out and do some real basic assessments for the hydrogen. Let alone if we were to have gone battery electric, it would be major demand on the grid. And so we wanted to be able to have an alternative that wouldn't collapse at some given point, right? But it would continue to provide us the ability to provide that service to our communities.
Well, I'm glad to see somebody else is having the same problem with Edison we are.
What's New Flyer's turnaround time on buses right now for the hydrogen buses?
So if we go in, they're about a year to 2 years, closer to the 2-year mark to get a bus through their line and delivered on site. So if we were to put an order in today, we wouldn't see a New Flyer bus until about 2028. So currently they are the only bus manufacturer that is putting out fuel cell electric buses. I believe Gillig is another bus manufacturer, and
I'm
they're
gonna mention that.
yeah, they're currently in Altoona going through all the required testing, but they're not certified to be able to sell their fuel cell hydrogen electric buses as of yet. Eldorado is another bus manufacturer. They went bankrupt. They recently returned, but they're not even at Altoona yet when it comes to a fuel cell technology for them. So New Flyer is the only manufacturer. Some of the challenges with New Flyer also is that part of the bus is Canadian steel. So what we're also looking at is the whole tariff situation. So when we purchased these, so the buses that we received in December of 2025, these buses were ordered February of 2024, and it took them a while to get here. So yeah, so there's a pretty large delay on the turnaround time in that supply chain.
Is that just in general for bus orders or just specific to hydrogen?
Specific to hydrogen, nonetheless, there are delays on the other technologies as well. However, Gillig does provide a compressed natural gas comparable to New Flyer. So it minimizes the turnaround time for the CNG buses. We are currently going back out just because that 2040 demand, it's pretty difficult to meet across the transit industry. So we are going to go and grab in a few more CNG buses, but we're going to continue to gradually scale up to the fuel cell electrics.
Thank you. That was informative.
Thank you so much.
Although I do have one question. If you ordered the bus before the tariffs, who pays the tariff?
We still paid the tariff.
Well,
The manufacturer still passed it down to the consumer. Yeah. Yeah, we still felt the pinch.
you know I can't comment.
Do that on purpose.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. CC1? Okay. So, new business items 6 through 8. Jason.
Mayor, board members, thank you guys. We are having some successes in our first aggregation. As a result of that, a policy you approved prior to this, as it relates to our procurement, allowed for the CEO to procure energy from a supplier, and with consultation and approval of the chairman of the board, and then consultation with the board. At that moment, I don't want to say forgot, but we realized we also have to have the authority to sell that hydrogen on the other side. So the item before you today is a procurement policy change or amendment that allows for the chairman of the board and I to allow for the contracting of the purchase of hydrogen as well as the contracting of sale of hydrogen. Included in there is the ability to contract for delivery, so that when we have ability to deliver hydrogen, we can quickly contract for that delivery as well. And then also, we're finding in some of these contracts that we'll be sharing with you once approved, really soon, hopefully, that some of those are requiring some financial interest for financial interests to hedge against certain commodities. So we want some authority in that to do that as well from a speed perspective. In each of these cases, we're required to consult with you as the board. Although the chairman has the authority, we will share with you every time we enter into those contracts so that you know about them. And at the end of the day, on our ballot, or you'll see those contracts come to you and for your approval on the board under the financial statement. So we're excited about the progress, and this change in policy allows us to move quickly, which I think is key. We're finding in this market where it's very important to move quickly. If we meet every month, it becomes difficult. If tomorrow we had an opportunity for a contract, we'd have to wait for a month or call you all back for a special meeting. That becomes difficult. So this allows for the speed and flexibility as well as the accountability through the chairman, as well as noticing the rest of the board. So with that, we'd recommend your approval of this item.
Now, is there any reason why we can't distribute the contracts before we sign them to the board?
You can direct me. There's no issues to do that. We can have the conversation before then.
Okay, we don't have
Absolutely.
any Brown Act problems? Or...
We
Hey,
can't.
we would have a Brown Act problem if we asked for board members to weigh in on a contract that was not being discussed in an agendized and public meeting. But if we sent them out as an informational purpose right before signing, that would be fine, as long as we did it in a BCC manner so we didn't get a reply all.
It's like the lawyer coming in with the voice of God.
Well, that is always my goal.
As long as we don't, as long as it's only 1 or 2 people talking,
Correct. So
I mean,
I can brief, oh, sorry.
that's not a Brown Act violation, is it, Allison?
Voting is free.
No, but you had said you wanted it distributed to the entire board, and if the implication was we were going to distribute it to the entire board and request their input, that would be a Brown Act violation.
Okay,
I do have the authority, and Allison verified, to brief
Yes.
board without the need for consultation, right, or approval, right? That would be a serial meeting.
Right, it would be an informational, one-way informational from Jason to each of the board members, and we can do it in groups of less than a quorum. We simply cannot share the position or approval or disapproval of other board members with each small group of less than a quorum.
What I'm attempting to do is, you know, we got an incredible wealth of knowledge on this board. I don't want to waste it.
Sure, sure. So we can do briefings with less than a quorum. Yes, we can do that.
Okay, good. Let's make sure we do. that.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay. Yep. I mean, Jack's going to see things that I would never see.
Maybe. You did not provide us the resolution itself here for item number item number 6?
Should have been in the packet.
Maybe in the
It's in the
packet.
packet. Okay, it's in the bigger packet.
Yeah,
And it's just adding sale to the previous resolution we adopted, right?
correct.
Okay.
So I have the ability to purchase. I
Yeah.
have.
It's
Yeah.
also adding transportation and hedging.
Okay. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Okay, thank you very much.
But it's also in your packet, and I'm trying to find the page number for you right now. Yeah, it's going to be,
Yeah, the staff report starts at 43.
yeah.
Resolution is 46.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Need a roll call?
I'm sorry, we need a roll call because this is a resolution.
Oh, okay. Call the roll.
Board Member Brower,
Aye.
Hertzberg.
Aye.
Medrano.
Aye.
Peacock,
Aye.
Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ruggles,
Aye.
Chair Paris.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Moving on to NB7. Jason.
Great. Thank you, guys. This is my monthly update to you, and we have great news to share. So if you recall, a year ago, we set out with this organization and we kept mentioning that we're flying this plane as we were building it. Well, the seatbelt light has turned on. So you must return to your seats. We're about ready to land this thing. So if you, that's the purpose for the previous item, obviously, as it relates to the authority to procure. We've had some really great progress on our first aggregation with a number of different off-takers that are very important off-takers and very patient off-takers, because this is a very, very new process. But we have validated that buying as an aggregated entity has value to all the entities on a price perspective as well as a delivery cost perspective. So we have validated that what our actions are doing are working. We have also have a great partner on the supply side who has been very aggressive and patient with our opportunity as well, leaning into the idea that aggregation works and that volume is volume and dealing with one off-taker, specifically us as an aggregator, is valuable to them as well. So we're excited about that future. I will be setting up meetings to brief you guys on those contracts as a result of the chairman's direction. And then hopefully by early next week, we'll be ready to sign some of those contracts and then begin the process of actually signing the sales contracts as well. Once that happens, we will be publicizing that as an opportunity to not only tell the story that it works, that your vision is accurate and working, but also to begin our secondary aggregation, which is this. As we know, we didn't start here to look at existing supply. We started this process to look at merging existing supply with new supply. And that secondary aggregation is working with all of the remaining transit agencies as well as off-takers, whether they be public or private, in the goal of getting new supply on marketplace, green supply in the market. And so we will be actively beginning that second aggregation, which will be a much bigger aggregation in the hopes that we can actually begin new construction of green product in the marketplace. The RFP that we've done before indicates that we can accomplish that goal as it relates to not only the volumes, but also the price, so that we will drive some pricing, positive pricing efforts, but also the participation in the LCFS program, which allows for green hydrogen incentives on the downstream side for the dispensing entity. So that's all very good news, and we'll hopefully having some announcements here very shortly. Kudos to staff who's been working on this, as well as the mayor and his team, to kind of dig deep into these things. This has been a very complicated process because it's new, but also we're trying to cover every aspect of what we were trying to predict the future with every off-taker that's going to be, we found is going to be very different, even though they're the same agencies, they have very different requirements. So it's been a great process. And again, the patience of the seller of the participant has been fantastic as well, which I think we have a great partner to start and kick this thing off right. So with that, oh, that was there wasn't anything to approve. That's just an update. Also, we at our last meeting, you directed us to kind of work with Sacramento and kind of reach out to the state legislature for one, make sure there's awareness of First Public Hydrogen, but also gauge kind of the momentum in the industry. So we had the opportunity to do that last week and met with a number of different legislative staffs, but a couple of legislators as well, and kind of telling them the story that hydrogen is not dead. Now it was, the momentum has changed a little bit from the messaging from the federal government about $1.2 billion not entering the system. But there were still some key legislators, including yours and industry, and obviously Montebello's, that is very focused on hydrogen, continuing the hydrogen progress. So we did get a very positive feedback on them. The other feedback we got is the state's broke. So so as it relates to other funds that are available, as much as they would love to fund a lot of things, the state's broke. But I think there are a couple legislators that are pressing for funding opportunities to expand funding opportunities for hydrogen specifically. We had a great meeting with CARB while we were there. The California Air Resources Board is still very committed, obviously, to cleaning the air. And they're charged with that to do that. So we discussed funding opportunities with CARB specifically, not only on the transit side, but also the industrial side, whether it be the ports or large scale trucking. And they were very positive as well. One thing we reminded ourselves of is that the Clean Fleets Rule, or the ACT, that requires agencies to convert and decarbonize their fleets still is applicable to public agencies. So as much as the federal government came in and cooled what we can do across state lines, the CARB has still put those rules in place and is still funding those. So as it relates to momentum, part of our messaging is this: we still have to comply as public agencies with these fleet opportunities. So when you talk about Montebello, their fleet eventually will need to be converted to 100% zero emitting buses, because the CARB rules still exist for state agencies and local governments in California. So I think that was a key component of what the conversation was we had. But it was very strong support of hydrogen still. I think some legislators are stronger than others. Some are more informed than others. And some are willing to, take a lead role in that. And so we're going to re-communicate with those folks and lean in and help them accomplish that. So it was a very, very productive effort. And with that, I have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I had a question about Prop 4 funds. Have you looked at that? Is there that's the climate resilience bond that we had, that the state passed a couple years ago, and I had actually sort of forgotten about it and then heard a presentation. And so there have been allocations already, and I haven't looked into the details in the applicability, but there is climate resilience language in there, and certainly, clean transportation fuels. It seems like you could argue that would fit. Anyway, I was just throwing it out there as possibly a funding source, and maybe not this year, because I think the allocations have been made, but maybe next year.
Yeah, we'll look at it. I don't know if with Prop 4 specifically we have, thank you for reminding, because we have applied for a couple grants as well. I think we're sharing that with you. There's an event center grant, the Paris Center in Lancaster is looking at a 1 megawatt fuel cell as a resilience, but also a demand management and microgrid. So that's a 1 megawatt fuel cell that'll be placed at the event center on the fairgrounds. As a evacuation center, a feed people, I don't know what they call that. I mean, it's evacuation center, and a resilient center. So that is going forward as a demonstration grant, and it may be Prop 4 money. It might be, yeah. So that is a demonstration grant. If we're successful in that, we've already started reaching out to statewide fairs as well to actually apply this kind of technology to the state fairs statewide, so that all the fairs are listed as evacuation centers, with whether it be fire or flood or anything like that. So we're trying to expand on that. We're also submitting a grant for a hydrogen corridor between one of our member agencies and a very important delivery point. So we're applying for that to actually look at a hydrogen corridor with as it relates to the trucking industry. So those both are going in, and then we're hopefully here on the event center in April. And then we'll be submitting in March on the other grant.
Great.
And these are significant. I think it's a $4 or $5 million grant we're asking for.
I believe Prop 4 is $1 billion a year, and so I'll send you the presentation
That'd be
that
great.
I saw, and
Yeah.
there's some resources in there.
So we do actively seek out. Adrian and Ashley are fantastic at that, identifying grants and then working on the grant team to make that happen.
You know, what he said about the buses, you know, the 300 miles and you got to buy more buses if you don't go with hydrogen. That's sounding to me like it's really cost effective, right?
Yes, especially when you have our fuel pricing. So the
Yeah.
challenge right now, some agencies we're working with are getting $45 fuel prices, which is very difficult. So it's efficient in the operation, it's not in the fuel prices. So if we solve the fuel prices, then we've got all angles solved.
Wait a minute, I thought you saw that.
We did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right.
So I'm wondering if we should be reaching out to private equity now.
To fund buses?
No, to fund the hydrogen.
Oh,
Does that sound right? I mean, you know this stuff better than I do.
Two things. One, I think it's a little too early. We've got to prove ourselves a little bit better. We all, we've done pretty well in a very short window. We've got to actually get some deals under our belt. And secondly, I don't know if we as a public agency can do that, but we certainly can create an environment where we can bring, I want to do a report on that because I spent 10 days on the road talking about green hydrogen around the world. I want to report on that. I think there's some real opportunities for Bill Money to come here. I'll talk at the end. I want to mention that.
You know, what I've seen, you know, as the mayor is the resistance to development caused by Edison's inability to provide power is increasing. It's not diminishing. And I don't know how that plays into what we're doing, but it seems like it should play into what we're doing, you know? Because I don't see it getting any better. I mean, it looks like all of the funding that they're able to generate has to go into burying the lines.
Well,
We're paying those lawyers. I mean,
Lawyers, pays me here with the lawyers. But, I mean, look, the bottom line is, if you look at the kind of political architecture where we are, you've got this tremendous shift and reliance on electricity, right? You've got the burying the lines up north in PG&E in terms of the fire risks and the law there. You've also got the tremendous demand of the growth on electricity and the regulatory environment, which is very slow. 15 years for putting up the power lines and all those very things are problematic. Then you have the AI stuff that's just going to be explosive in terms of its energy demands. And there's some efforts which I talked about overseas afoot to create an alternative process where we could use like hydrogen and things like that to power these guys, and then figure out a relationship between the utilities and these big tech companies have huge amounts of money that are willing to spend to build this stuff out fast, and they need to build it out fast. There's some real interesting ideas that we could engage in. But the bottom line is, and then the last piece is just the cost to the average consumer. Everybody's talking about, I hate that politician word of affordability, but shit's too expensive, right? It costs, your light bill's too high, right? That's what matters. I can't afford my light bill. And so, you know, you're going to have to come up with alternatives to take pressure off of the light bill because it affects people politically. I remember in the city of Los Angeles, you know, the DWP hadn't raised their rates for 11 years when Tony Cardenas was the chair. And everybody was complaining because he was going to raise it a little bit because people see their light bill as their taxes when it's the DWP, when in fact they were substantially less than the investor-owned utility. So the political problem is not just the growth of California and what's needed, the competition and the delays like you're having with Edison and the like. I mean, these have very significant challenges. And I think, you know, what you guys want, I think hydrogen provides just an extraordinary opportunity to provide additional energy piece. The question is going to be, how do we legally figure out, given what the structure is of investor-owned utilities and municipal utilities, we can weave in these big money players, the big tech companies that are spending billions and billions of dollars to create kind of a new category of energy. And my view is that new category of energy can be provided by hydrogen. You saw it if you saw recently in the newspaper. Boeing is selling jet engines to be able to provide power for AI centers. you know, they're looking at nuclear. I think, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening. But in terms of where we are in the technology and where the opportunity is, this whole green hydrogen, in particular California green hydrogen, is yeah, I just think it's really a big deal in the future, and I think it's going to draw a lot of money down the line. Right now, anytime you have a new industry, there's always people that are naysayers and rock throwers and stuff until you prove it, and all of a sudden they're the geniuses because they want to invest, right? But there's really an extraordinary opportunity. That's what I see in this space, and this is because you're basically using wind, water, and the sun in large measures to create energy. So your feedstock is substantially free. Your infrastructure allows you to pay people properly and build more stuff. So it's a big deal, and it's going to attract a lot of money. I really think so. It's not about making a knock on any other aspect. It's just how do we as California reduce pressure on consumers so their light bill ain't so high, so they're not screaming, because you got to take care of the folks. And on the other hand, how do you create new energy sources that expand what we have to do at the speed with which we have to do it? Because the current structure is so slow and difficult. I mean, people waiting 2 years for hookups. I hear so many stories of people waiting for hookups of our energy. It's just really challenging. So we here provide the answer at First Public Hydrogen. We are the answer. Follow to the mountaintop, to the promised land. Eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So they're planning to build this convert the power plant GWP to hydrogen.
Scattergood,
Yeah, scattergood.
right?
Does that mean the technology is caught up to it? I mean, we now have the technology to build power plants with hydrogen?
Most certainly, especially at 30%, because every single gas turbine manufacturer is selling gas turbine power plants that can handle 30% hydrogen and natural gas. And those systems operate with at least as low emissions as the pure natural gas ones. They claim, most of them, not all of them, that you can even get lower with 30% hydrogen. And they're developing the ones that go between 30% hydrogen and 100% hydrogen. And Mitsubishi in Japan just announced 100% one. Okay, so not all the manufacturers offer 100% hydrogen ones now, but they're all aiming in that direction.
Actually, Frank, say some more on this section than what we're here.
Can I change the subject a little
Go
bit
ahead,
here?
please.
I really love this discussion, but anyways, can you tell us what you did yet on the aggregation upfront and prices, or is that not available yet?
That'll be part of the briefing.
It'll be part of the briefing. Okay. And it will be this month.
I'll get it done this week.
Yeah, but between
Yeah,
between this and the next board meeting.
yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
Well,
Thank
can
you.
you give them a ballpark?
And those details will, of course, be subject to confidentiality provisions and non-disclosure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
We should build a power plant.
Well, I got some people that might put the money up.
So why are we waiting?
The lawyers. The lawyers.
Well, isn't it more of a Sacramento problem? I mean,
Well, there's going to be a bunch of legislation introduced this year in that regard to try to expedite a lot of that stuff. You're going to see a lot of stuff come out. When I'm talking to a lot of folks in that space, they're coming up with ways to do exactly what you're talking about.
okay. All
So,
right, we need to talk.
Yeah. Okay. Right now, gas turbine power plants are order of magnitude 3 times more expensive than they were a few years ago, mainly because of demand. Secondly, there's a 3 to 5 year delay.
Right.
Okay, if you order one today, it's even worse than the New Flyer bus. Okay, it's going to take a long time to get that power plant delivered, mainly because they can't speed up their manufacturing of these gas turbine systems fast enough to actually meet all the demand for AI powering of data centers. And then you have nuclear as an option. Nuclear is even a longer delay, mainly because of regulatory issues. Okay, and so that's a different reason. And you got a lot of new nuclear companies that are trying to do these things, but they don't even have a certified product. Okay, so it's really tricky.
Tom Hayden
What
passed
you
a
can do
ban in
today, though, what
California.
you can do today, you can put your solar plant right next to the data center
Right.
in Lancaster. You can do that. Now, it's
We're-
gonna be
we're aware
more
of that.
expensive. It can be more, it's more expensive electricity than it is from a gas turbine. But we should be able to eventually convince people that, hey, you can get the resilience by adding hydrogen and some battery energy storage plus solar, and you can build a heck of a lot of reliable, resilient power plants for data centers where you have available land and solar. Okay, to me, this is one of the most important directions we can go, and we can go fast in that direction. And that should be a major direction that California decides to go. Why not? We want to increase our renewable infrastructure. We're not doing it fast enough. If we have a demand center that's going to be able to pay, I don't know, 14 cents, okay, instead of 9, okay, we should go in that direction.
I hope this is on video.
Oh, gosh.
It is, but we do want to make sure we stay on the topics identified on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you, voice of God.
Yeah. Voice of-
I am the voice of God.
Don't we get an exemption because I have ADD and can't stay on
No.
topic?
Accommodation.
Yeah, an
There
accommodation.
you go. That's a fancy word.
Okay, good. Thank you. So the update has been received. General Counsel.
Yes, good afternoon. My only update for you today, other than I am the voice of God, is that your Form 700s will of course be due on April the 1st. If you have any questions or concerns as you fill those out, please don't hesitate to contact me. But that's my only update for today.
That was refreshingly brief. Thank you.
Happy to help.
Public comment. Do we have any public comment? Doesn't look like it. Moving on. Any comments from the board?
I spent 10 days on the road traveling, working on hydrogen. I gave a keynote address in a small city in the south of Spain next to the border of Portugal for the Congress of Green Hydrogen with 1,600 people. And the level of interest in green hydrogen was extraordinary. I spoke about us as an example of what we're doing. It's thoughtful and intelligent in California using the Joint Powers Authority, and I explained what that was. It's about a 20-minute speech, and talked at length about what we're doing. I had briefed with the governor's office before I went, and there's an unbelievable amount of interest in green hydrogen in Europe. Right, the Spaniards are big on it. The Germans are worried about relying on Russian oil, natural gas. Right, you've got the Japanese that are concerned about China. The geopolitical aspects of the energy is the reason why Japan is big behind the hydrogen stuff. So I just got to tell you, I met a ton of people, and I had to race out of there because I flew to Dubai. And I went to Dubai with this group called the Electric Power Research Institute. It's a not-for-profit entity, and it's about $500 million a year. They represent 450 electrical utilities throughout the world in 45 countries. They have 1,100 employees. It's a not-for-profit deal. And they're really focused on green hydrogen. When I was in Dubai, I met with the head of green hydrogen worldwide. And there's a number of projects which I'm going to hook you guys up to that they're looking at around the world that could be interesting to learn from and the like. But it was really interesting because they're basically technical advisors. They're a non-for-profit entity, but they're really looking into green hydrogen as an element of the electricity piece of what they're doing. And again, I met the gentleman he's actually from North Carolina, but it was in Dubai. And my head was spinning about all the ideas that he had, which I can debrief you guys on, but it was pretty interesting. And there's a real significant interest in focusing in this space. So in other words, the point is we're not just acting alone. There's a lot of other folks out there. I also met with the head person, who's one of the royal family people, His Excellency from the Dubai Electric and Water Agency, DEWA. And they're interested, which is something that could be relevant to us, given what the chairman said, that in addition to them, providing all of the electricity and all the stuff, they're doing a lot of hydrogen projects in Dubai, which is just, if anybody hasn't been there, you should go there. It's just an unbelievable place in the world of the growth. But they got crappy labor standards, I want you to know. I asked about that. And so But they want to develop, they want to invest around the world. They want to put together a development agency. They've got, I don't know how many billions and billions and billions of dollars they have, but they're interested. And I met with His Excellency is going to come. I'm going to have him at my house sometime in the next number of months. But they're interested in looking at opportunities here in California where they could invest and be involved in green hydrogen, which could be interesting. It talks about building a power plant. You know, they know what they're doing and the like. I also met with a company called ACWA, which is the renewable and desal and green hydrogen company in Dubai, which again is interested in doing further developments. They have, I think, the largest green hydrogen facility in Saudi Arabia. I think it was like 400, some huge, you probably know what it is, huge, huge, huge deal they've done, you know, and they were very interested. I met with their green hydrogen team, very, very impressive folks. I also met in Saudi Arabia. I flew to Riyadh and met with the head of the Saudi Power Procurement Company, basically the buyers for all of Saudi Arabia. And again, they're interested in green hydrogen, developing it, looking at markets and stuff. So what I'm suggesting is by virtue of these various, so the first part of the meeting, I went separately to give the speech in Spain. And the other part was with this not-for-profit agency, just as a volunteer. I didn't get paid anything. I was just interested in learning about this. But my point to everyone here on the board is that there's a lot of global interest. I know there's a lot of global interest in Japan because, you know, we all know that in terms of what they've been doing. We've been to the consul's home many, many times and being involved with that, with the Verity Exchange and the like. But the point is that what's happening is because of this investment, they're reducing the costs of electrolyzers. They're getting technical people that are smart enough to figure out how to do this stuff. They've energized investment capital that's interested because they see a value to this stuff. And they're looking to come up with expansion. So I talked a lot about what we're doing here and why this is such a good idea. You know, where government, I mean, basically you guys are jump-starting this whole process where government sits around, everybody waits for something to happen. We're actually getting ahead of the game and doing this stuff. So I think there's some opportunities. I'll debrief you and introduce you to the various people. The most impressive person, the two people, the gentleman who was, I think he's Pakistani, but he was from I met with the CEO, but ACWA Power and doing green hydrogen. He heads up all the green hydrogen projects, venture projects. And this young gentleman who's, but he's the senior guy at head of global green hydrogen for the not-for-profit, you know, EPRI. Are you familiar with EPRI? Yeah, they represent 90% of all the electric utilities in the world. They're kind of technical advisors and that kind of thing. So it was really worthwhile and interesting. And you know, the big deliverable, basically what I bring us back to this board is one, there's a tremendous interest in this stuff globally. It's not something we're doing on our own. That interest will translate into capital and will translate into expediting a lot of technology in terms of various companies. They know every electrolyzer company, every this, who does what, who's good, who's bad and stuff. They could help us in doing this stuff. And third, I think, you know, we could have an interesting incentive for them to try to invest in California. But there's an interest. And also the head of the Saudi Arabian procurement company, the power buyer, is coming to California, I think in August. So there's gonna be 2 meetings and I'll try to set appropriately up with that type of stuff. But it was really encouraging.
Should we put together some kind of event? Bring these people in, show them what we can do. I mean, the one thing we've got going for us that nobody else does is the speed in which we can get things up. You know, the city it's much faster in Lancaster. I think everybody recognizes that.
I have a leadership problem over there.
So we'll want to make sure that we put any such event on an agenda if we're going to be discussing it among the full board. But we could definitely make that note and bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay, so let me do it this way. I'm proposing a thing for the agenda next meeting where we actually invite a group in and let's quit talking and start building. You know, hey, but I need you for that.
Hey, I just flew Saudi Arabia, Spain. I was exhausted. Boom, 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 boom. Got all this stuff done. Doing the homework, you know. I'm a recon man for the military. I went out and did recon for you guys and bring home the bacon.
From the Middle East?
You know,
I don't think-
I find that oftentimes.
For the Jewish guy, I want to amend those remarks. I didn't bring home the bacon, I brought home the salami.
From Dubai.
From Dubai. I know, and Saudi Arabia, how do you like that? No problem. They treat me like
Brought home the
great. It was
Dubai
fantastic.
chocolate, man.
The
They were-
world is
they were-
changing.
It was so impressive how smart they were. And you know, the argument is that, you know, generally there's, in the world, we live based upon prejudices that we all have about what we think about the world, that, oh, they just care about oil and are selling oil. I can't recall, but the gentleman from Dubai came to California, met with DWP, had a tour. It might have been with you guys. I don't know if you remember this. And it copied what we're doing. It's building the largest solar project in the world on what he learned here, right? And now they want to do a development company. And I asked, could I talk about it publicly? He says, yes, you know, I wouldn't do something without his permission. Very, very, very smart people. Technical people were extraordinary. And you know, basically it's kind of like a shift of like, these people are doing really creative, cutting edge stuff. And what they're really interested in is selling the oil to everybody else and supplying themselves with renewable energy, which is not a bad idea. But the reality is, in that quest, they've got so much capital and they're bringing the best brains around the world. And they're willing to, as you correctly noted, willing to move fast, and take big risks. I didn't expect it to learn what I learned when I was there. And I came quite encouraged. And I think there's opportunities for us here to potentially work with them, build that relationship, and you know, explore some interesting opportunities.
All right, Jason, fix the agenda for next meeting so Allison doesn't get upset.
Thank you. Voice of God says thank you.
It's exciting stuff. It's about,
Well, so this is Jack. I want to just make a couple of comments because we also have been meeting with a couple of companies from Saudi Arabia and also the Ministry of Education. And they have a very, very strong interest in energy diversification.
Right.
And coming with that is mostly renewables and solar and hydrogen and batteries and all these things. Okay. They also have some interest in nuclear, but we don't do that work. So I wasn't able to work with them on that, but they're willing to invest in not only here in the United States, but also in their country to diversify. So I have the same impression.
Right.
And the thing that we should understand about this is that even the countries that are most wealthy with regard to their proven reserves of petroleum know that it's not their future.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Eventually it goes away. So why not diversify? Why not invest in what's going to be a future proposition for their entire country, you know? And so we should all heed those kinds of things. Let me mention one additional thing, because I was in Poland this last month, and I was there again primarily because of hydrogen interests that they have in Poland. They also have, of course, this proximity to Ukraine and have been the country that has accepted most Ukrainian refugees in the whole world.
Right.
Okay. Besides the fact that they depend also on Russian natural gas for some of their power, and they have pipelines that go through. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of interests there too that make them consistent with Spain in their support for Spanish and Moroccan solar going into hydrogen and putting it in the pipelines the other way. Okay, and this sort of thing is still very, very popular in Europe, and it should be. It should be for their own national security, for their own energy security, for diversity of energy, but then also in the end, something that's sustainable that they can do forever. You know, the sun's going to keep shining in Morocco. The oil's not going to always be there.
Lancaster too, by the way.
Correct.
Sometimes the metaphor of a prairie fire, the spark, aren't you getting the feeling that this fire is burning?
Absolutely.
And it's ready to take off? We need to reposition. We need to be able to seize it now. And you need to get California to drop the regulations so we can do it. I mean, the president has already got rid of all the regulations.
But my message on this trip was that, again, I'm playing politics, but this notion that we don't care about renewables, economics makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense at 100 different levels. Market makes sense. And that, maybe you're hearing things in what's happening in other parts of the country or in Washington DC, but that's not what California is about. We're going to roll and we're going to roll hard. And we think that there's a number of reasons why that's necessary to do outside of politics. I just think there's just a real opportunity for 100 levels. And I wanted to sell that message to them. Don't think that, oh God, just because Arches is no longer here, that we're not going to continue to roll hard and continue to build stuff.
I suspect it might even be quicker now, because at the end of the day, that was another layer. Massive amount of construction for those data centers if we powered them with hydrogen. Massive. We just have to.
You have to hire more people. More people.
He's gonna build us a training center up there.
Let me mention one additional thing, if you don't mind, because I was, and still am, involved in Arches, because we had, a contract. It was canceled by the Trump administration. But also I've been involved in Arches the entire time. There still is litigation that is out there that, a judge, ruled in favor of establishing Arches and the award from the federal government. Okay, I know that's going to go on for maybe ever and may not ever be resolved, but there are some ways in which I think the administration could be convinced of reinvesting in parts of what Arches was doing or what other hubs were doing. Okay, and I think it makes a lot of sense because of the many of the interests that our current federal administration says they support. They support domestic jobs, they support domestic energy, they support energy resilience, they support bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And if you're going to do all of that, you're going to bring all that back. That requires some investment in the stuff that we're doing. So anyway, I'm hoping that there will be some reconsideration and reinvestment. I don't know if it's going to come back as Arches, but I'm just still hoping for that.
We're going to move away.
Okay. Good meeting.
Never happened. It might happen in red states, ain't happening in California. This guy ain't gonna do it for you. We will see.
Well, there is a Republican island,
Where?
Lancaster. That maybe the Trump administration could recognize. Maybe. No, I'm sorry. Any board member have any questions about FPH2 related travel? Any requests from the board? Now I'm adjourning. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 19, 2026 at 2 p.m. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
I'm excited. You excited?
I just can't,
Will that next meeting be?
Is the next meeting here?
Yeah, where's the next meeting?
We'll let you know.